Hello everybody and welcome. In this week's video, I'm going to be teaching you guys 3 Lightroom tricks that I love using on all of my images that I edit in Lightroom. These 3 tricks are going to help you create really stunning images, and I'm guessing that they're likely things that you haven't heard of. Most photographers that come to my workshops or photographers that I work with in one way or another, they aren't aware of these 3 tricks in Lightroom that really are going to help you out. So we're going to go ahead and go over these 3 things on an image of my own. I highly recommend you guys pause and play the video next to your own image so that you can do these things as you watch me do them on my own image. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm going to show you all 3 tricks on this particular image here, which I've already just applied some basic edits to in Lightroom. The first thing that I want to show you is this tone curve here. A lot of photographers overlook the tone curve or they don't quite understand how to use it. I like using the tone curve to increase the highlights. I generally don't mess too much with the lights, darks, or shadows. Now you may be wondering, what is the difference with adjusting the highlights here as opposed to up here? When you adjust the highlights up here, it's just adjusting you can see right here, this part of the image, anything in there. Whereas down here on the curve, we can actually adjust what our highlights is changing. And so what I like to do is to pop the highlights here. Usually 50 to 100 is good. And then I adjust what it's affecting here. So this is just going to give us a more refined way to adjust the highlights. And I like doing this because it gives you a little bit of pop to your image. So I'm just going to toggle this. And you can see that it's really kind of helped us accentuate the fact that there's now sunlight glowing on these rocks. Whereas before, you could tell that there was sunlight, but it didn't really pop. And now it pops. So this is going to work on all kinds of images with bright spots, Milky Way, sunset, sunrise, daytime, any kind of photography you have. Try out this highlight slider here in the tone curve. And see what that does for you. If you're finding that it messes up your colors a little bit like it does here, you can go down to this HSL slider and reduce the hue, saturation, or luminance. In this photo, I think it's making our orange a little oversaturated. So I'm just going to go to saturation, go to orange, and just bring it down a hair. Toggle that on and off. And now I'll toggle this tone curve again. You can see it just gives us a little punch right here. So that's really all that this trick does for you, is it gives you a little bit of punch and a little bit more interest in your scene, a little bit more range. So that's why I like using it. Now the second tip is going to be all the way down at the bottom in the calibration sliders. Most photographers don't use these sliders, but they are so powerful. What this allows you to do is change the red, green, or blue primary of the raw file. Now, basically what that means is that each pixel in your scene is made up of red, green, and blue, all mixed together to create a pixel. So every single pixel in the scene has a certain value for red, green, and blue, and those values combined create the pixel. All those pixels combined create the whole photo. So what this is going to do by changing the primary, it allows us to affect the amount of red or the amount of green or the amount of blue in each individual pixel in your scene. And so what I like to do with landscape photography is actually increase the saturation of the blue primary. Now you can see when I do that, it increases the saturation of pretty much everything in the scene. And a lot of photographers get really confused and they think that, well, why are things that aren't blue getting increased saturation? And like I mentioned, that increasing the blue primary saturation, it increases the amount of blue that is in each color. And I'm not sure why this makes landscape photography images just look a little bit better, but it does. So I'll always increase the saturation to 100 on almost all of my images. And if it kind of oversaturates things a little bit, again, you can go back up to the HSL, go to saturation and adjust it. I'm going to adjust the oranges one more time, and I'm going to bring down the blues. If you do have a lot of blue sky in your image, this is really going to kind of make that blue sky way too oversaturated. So make sure that you're using the HSL slider as well with this, this blue primary saturation slider. So I'm just going to toggle that. You can see it really just helps me bring those oranges to life, bring everything to life, especially if you're shooting like a waterfall scene. That's really going to help as well. So that is the second trick that I've got for you. Now the last trick is sharpening, and a lot of people kind of dabble with the sharpening in Lightroom, but what a lot of people don't know is that you can actually hold Alt-Option as you slide this masking to see exactly what you're going to sharpen. So if I don't use any masking, it's going to sharpen the whole image, and the problem with that, so when I zoom in here, you'll be able to see when I increase the sharpening, it makes the sky really crunchy as well. I don't want the sky sharpened. So I just want to sharpen the edges, and the best way to do that is actually to hold Alt Option, click and drag the masking out, wait until the spots you want sharpened are white, and you can see that as I continue to slide this, it continues to get more selective. Right here looks pretty good. Now I've got a white edge that will be sharpened. I'm gonna go ahead and release. Then I bring my detail all the way up, my radius all the way down, and I increase the sharpening. Now you can see that I'm not increasing the noise in the sky, only sharpening the kind of edges here. So I'll toggle that. And that is looking really good. So that is my last trick for you. A lot of people don't understand how the sharpening in Lightroom works. It's super simple. Just use the masking slider to taste, and then detail all the way up, radius all the way down, and then increase the sharpening to whatever you think looks good. All right, everybody, that is a wrap. Those are my 3 favorite tricks in Lightroom that a lot of people don't know about. Highly recommend you give them a try, use them on your own images. And as always, feel free to let me know in the comments if you guys have any questions. Love to see the images you guys are creating. Shoot me an email, leave your images in the comments. I'd be super excited to check out what you guys are working on. Thank you guys so much for checking out this week's video, and we'll see you guys next time.